I did a shamanic course called Dying to Live, where we were blindfolded and in silence for most of the time, except for when we came together in this temple space to prepare for our death.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to a new episode of the Spiritual Inspired podcast. My guest today is Bella Young. Bella, thank you very much for accepting my invitation.
Oh, thank you for giving me the opportunity to share what I've learned from my experiences, and hopefully that information will be of benefit to someone.
Yes, and indeed, you are my first guest who was member of a messianic cult, and we'll go into that. So this, I think, will be a very interesting discussion for me and for others, as you said. And I would like to start by asking you, how did you get into that cult, and how it was to live with someone like your former husband?
Well, how I got into the cult, well, nobody joins a cult. Usually the group is formed, and it looks like a family, or it might look like a sports team or a political party or a church or a a multi-level marketing group. So what I thought, when I thought I was entering into an ashram with my guru, that was not really what was happening at all. And to go back to my childhood, which really set me up for being vulnerable to being part of a cult, because my family was my first cult. It wasn't a religious cult, but the dynamics were the same as any cult, with a charismatic leader, which was my mother, and she used a lot of tactics of she triangulated me and my brothers, and she did parental alienation between me and my father. Just a lot of it was child abuse, it was mind fuckery, it was hell. And I didn't really it's taken me a long time to unravel really what set me up for the cult experience. And then in addition to that, she was a devout atheist. So she was a militant atheist. Actually, she hated God, and we weren't really allowed to talk about God. And anyone who believed in God was a lesser human being. And we were superior because we knew the truth. So I grew up with this kind of superior attitude to other people, and a total disdain for God and anything spiritual. And it wasn't until I met my first husband that I, through our what books he gave me to read and what courses we did together, that it opened me up to there being more to the world and to life and reality that can be perceived through the five senses. So I started my life with him, and we were both really fulfilling each other's dreams. I know it sounds like romantic or soap opera-ish, but we were really we worked well together. He was quite a bit older than me. He was had been served in the Vietnam War. He was the longest serving Australian soldier. He was with the Green Berets and he'd done 4 tours, and so he was a real on the ground warrior. But during his time after the war, he'd become more of a spiritual warrior. So he really opened his heart and opened his consciousness, and I was blessed to be able to share some time with him. And we were working in the outdoors. We were like rock climbing instructors and climbing guys, obviously, and took people out into the bush and all that. And he was working with corporate people. I was working with people who had mental illnesses, and sometimes we crossed over and whatever. Anyway, we were living on some land, working towards being self-sufficient, which was my dream. We had a child, and I was pregnant with our second child, and he went off to work one day. He was starting his own company, and I got a knock on the door about 10 o'clock in the morning from the local cop and my neighbor, and they told me that he'd passed away. and he was found dead in his car on the job, and my life just completely fell apart at that moment. That was just like the worst thing that could have happened to me. And telling my son that his father, it was just a nightmare, and I didn't want to live. I really didn't want to keep breathing, but I had a child and I was pregnant, so I knew I had to find some way to move forward, because I couldn't really take out 3 lives. That just didn't seem right. And then I moved around a lot. I had to sell the farm, nowhere felt like home. And I traveled to India to be with a spiritual teacher called Sai Baba at the time, and was guided to a town called Hillsville, ironically, outside of Melbourne. And I started living in the community there. I did a shamanic course called Dying to Live, where we were blindfolded and in silence for most of the time, except for when we came together in this temple space to prepare for our death, where we wrote our will, we wrote a eulogy, we wrote letters of forgiveness, just prepared for the death on the last morning. And I just put my whole heart and soul into this, because I knew that my death wish was really running the show at this time. And I had a massive out-of-body experience. And I heard to go among a number of different things, but one of them was to go and start training with this particular, let's call him a spiritual teacher. And so when I got back from that experience, got grounded, I called him up and he said, come and train, be with him in New Zealand for this Millennium event. So back in 2000. And then after that, he invited me to come and be with him in his ashram in Laguna Hills in California. I did that. At the end of that month's stay, I left my children with my mother. And then he asked me to marry him. And I felt like that was, I had been very clear that my intentions were to heal and to serve. And I felt like I was following divine guidance. And so agreed to marry him and brought the children over, and we lived as a family in Laguna Hills on the cul-de-sac, a normal looking home, but behind the scenes we were he said he was the second coming, which is hence the messianic cult thing. He's the Messiah, he's the one who's come to save humanity, and we were all his disciples, here to serve his mission and to help him save the world, basically. And I got hooked in like thoroughly, because we had sex one time to consummate the marriage, and I got pregnant. So we had a child together, and from my wounding of my parents' own divorce and my commitment to wanting a family, I knew that was in me, that I really wanted to have a family, and I really wanted to serve God and, make a contribution to a better world. So I felt like I was in the place I was supposed to be, but it was hell. It was just hell every day. He's still running his cult, and I don't know what he's telling people these days about who he is, but he has a narcissistic personality disorder. I've come to understand what that means. And I've also come to understand that if he has a narcissistic personality disorder, what did that mean about me, that I was attracted to someone with that personality disorder? And I understood that I had codependent tendencies. And they're both self-love deficit disorders. They just present differently. For me, I'm looking for love outside myself. I'm a people pleaser. I'm trying to get approval and all that. So I was just a perfect little fluffy bunny for the wolf cult leader, because I was extremely wounded. I was searching for, like I said, family. I was also searching for spiritual guidance. I really did want a guru. I really did want to, be helped along the way. And we were living in this community, so we had our homes and there were other homes around, and people came to serve, which is basically just like free slave labor. And we had people around all the time to help with cooking and cleaning and gardening and cut, all that basic stuff, but also to help with the continuous recruitment of people, and also the continuous surveillance of people, because he was, he's controlling the show. So he's controlling who lives in what houses with who's working, what we're eating, when we're supposed to get up, And then he's got all these other games going on as well, like telling people that they're enlightened and punishing other people for not finishing their projects or being disrespectful. And so there was a lot of it was just hellish, especially for the children. He was particularly cruel to my children from my other husband, and he did things like he triangulated them. So he'd tell them that I loved them differently. You know, I loved my daughter with him the most, and she at this point she was being venerated as a Hindu god, as Ganesha, the embodiment of Ganesha. So much mind fuckery was going on. It was hard to like live. And there was most of the time my intuition was being overridden. He would say that he knew me better than I knew myself, and I was just in like resistance. And if I followed his orders and rubbed his feet for 15 minutes a night, I'd be free. And it was an absolute nightmare. And my parents actually knew I was in a cult. I found out later, even though they were divorced, they went along to see a cult expert. And I don't know what he told them, apparently not to do anything, it seems. And I didn't know I was in a cult. We joked about it within the cult. We were like the cult that wasn't a cult, and like everyone else was in a cult, but we weren't. And like 7 years down the track of this nightmare situation with no one telling me I was in a cult. No one mentioned anything. No, not my friends, no one. And then my son came home from school one day, and he was very upset, and he didn't want to talk about it. So I said, well, why don't you just, go to bed and we'll talk about it in the morning. And in the morning he was gone. And I knew we had a problem on our hands, and we called the police by the end of the day and reported him missing. And then the next day, the cult leader sent his assistant out to look for him behind the house, and he found him in this lot behind the house with a neck wound and the kitchen knife by his neck. And he told everyone that my son had taken his life because he found out he was gay. He knew that was going to be unacceptable to me. And so he'd taken his life, which is just heinous lies. All of that was lies. I found out years later that my son did not take his life. I alleged that he was murdered in order to cover up what was really going on behind the scenes. And that was that this cult leader is a groomer, a predator, a rapist, and a con man. And he was about to be exposed by my son. So he took him out. And after that, then I went from like breath to breath for 6 months. I just didn't even want to be alive again. But once again, I had children, so I didn't feel that was right for me to take myself out. So I clawed my way back from that very, very dark place. I went to see this guy who'd been a cult counselor, because in addition to having all these sessions with the guru, we had to go and see a kinesiologist and a therapist because it was so messed up, of course. And I walked into this guy's office, and he said, you're in a cult, don't you? And I said, no, I don't know I'm in a cult. And he said, go home and Google cult characteristics. So I went home and I Googled cult characteristics. And sure enough, there's the charismatic leader who's the arbitrator of truth, who dictates people's behaviors, what they eat, where they, when they wake up, what they do with their time, and then uses other tactics like love bombing and then hate bombing, I'm calling it, because that happened a lot. And then also gaslighting, which is a technique to basically make people feel like they're going crazy. It comes from a stage play back in the 30s, but the husband did these tactics to make his wife feel like she's losing her mind. That happened a lot. A lot of conversations were like, oh, we already had this conversation, or you said that, or I told you to, and just constant mind fuckery was going on. And there was also what I call psychological operations that he did on the groups. And then if you really want to hear about it, then there's also, he has demonic possession. So he summoned demons, and that we were really dealing with some dark stuff, all under the guise of, healing. And like emotional releases and stuff like that, that we had sessions that would go on for hours and hours, and the police would be called, and it was horrendous, especially for the children to witness this. That was supposed to be the healing session. So once I went through the checklist and realized that I was in a cult, then I knew I had to get out. And that wasn't easy either, because he doubled down. Like, if he told me that I couldn't leave because I couldn't take our daughter, which was like legally true. I couldn't take her within 2 hours of where we were living, but I didn't even want to be living in that US anymore. So he also said that if I left him, I would be leaving my dharma, my life purpose. I would be turning my back on God, and I'd be turning my back on my soul, and I would scream throughout eternity once I left my body if I left him, and then I'd realize the extent of my mistake. And I was really torn, because I knew that I had wounds that needed to be healed, that wherever I go, they come with me. I felt trapped. And I think that now that the only reason he actually let me go, I left to Hawaii, was that he knew he'd have another death on his hands. So he let me go. We took my daughters and we moved to Hawaii, which is really when my healing started.
Mila, so much trauma in your life, and I'm happy to see that you overcame these challenges and you are safe and sane. That's very important. And I would like to go back to the start of this conversation when you mentioned about your brothers. How did they evolve through life based on the background you mentioned with your mother and your parents in general?
My brothers.
Yes.
Well, with typical narcissistic family, where you've got the golden child who can do no wrong, which is my youngest brother, and then the middle child, who's like an invisible child, and he's sort of the one who keeps the peace in a way. And then me, I'm the black sheep, I'm the scapegoat, I'm out of the family, I'm the one who only does wrong. So they basically played my mother's game. They were part of the family cult, and they went along with her decision to kick me out of the family. So I've had an estranged relationship with them for most of my adult life. But I'm sure they're doing fine. They don't share my view on life. I think they think I'm absolutely batshit crazy and also kind of dangerous. But they were. No one escaped from my family without any serious emotional wounding. And I don't know whether they've addressed it or not, but there's been no healing.
Yeah, I mean, I know you are dangerous because you are closer to God. You are closer on your spiritual path. You have a much better understanding of your purpose. And, no matter how painful your journey was up to now, you learn a lot, and you are still going through your healing process. And you mentioned that in Australia, you did that dark room experience. Do you think that the message you received to go and join that your ex-husband was a false message, or it was something that you have to go through as a life learn lesson?
I know that it was part of my life journey that I needed to go through. And that was what I found, is that once I committed to serving God, I'm going to call it God, call it higher power, spirit, whatever. Once I committed myself to serving a higher power, then I had to listen and follow instructions. And it was only when I listened and followed instructions that then I got the lessons that I needed to learn, got the expansion of consciousness. And then at this point in my life, I'm now being gifted the keys of the kingdom. queendom, whatever it is, because I have proven my commitment to serving. So even if something, and I'm not, this is just in my situation, but even if something doesn't feel particularly right, like I wasn't attracted to this guy, he's a wheezy little garden gnome, but I felt like it was I was following my divine instructions, divine guidance. And I'm not, I was actually one of his victims, but I'm not a victim. I'm responsible for everything that I've done, everything that's happened, and even including my son's passing, that I'm responsible for all that is unfolding in my life. I'm not a victim. There's no chance, there's no luck. It's all, divinely orchestrated. And my responsibility is to listen and for the instructions and follow them, and until otherwise. So I could say, oh my God, I got really, some dark forces intervened here and led me astray, but I know I wouldn't be where I am now. And that sounds kind of trite, but I know that I'm here to learn and evolve. I'm fully aware of that. That's why I've taken this embodiment, is to expand my consciousness, heal my wounds, and then serve in any way that I'm directed.
And for those women especially who went through this type of trauma, maybe not as bad as you went through, what methodologies, what steps have you followed in order to heal your wounds? And how is Kauai, as your new home, helping with that?
The most powerful medicine is from nature and through nature. Simply appreciating natural beauty, like whatever it is, from a sunset to the clouds going by, to the swaying trees, to the patterns in a leaf, or the feeling the fur of a cat, whatever it is, all those are medicines that can help us heal our wounds. I don't know the mechanism of how it works, but I know that because I've been appreciating the beauty, I watch the sunset and sunrise every morning. I'm staring at clouds. I go out at night, look at the night sky. I don't wear shoes. I've been connected to the earth now for like 8 years. I haven't worn shoes, except of course if it's really necessary, but it's being immersed in nature and being connected to nature that's healed my heart, or continuing to heal my heart. It's like balm for my soul. So like I said, I stay directly connected to the earth. I don't wear shoes because the earth is a battery. There's energy coming from the earth, and we need that life force energy to be balanced physiologically, electromagnetically, and psychologically. Really, like there's no way we can balance our nervous system with all this electromagnetic chaos unless we're disconnected from the electronics and out in nature and rebalancing that way. Like I just was listening to this workshop on like how to become a better marketer or whatever. And they thought they were going into like a real deep level of explaining that you need to rebalance your nervous system, but they skipped straight over the importance of being grounded, being directly connected to the earth, feet to earth, lying on the earth. Like do that as much as possible every day. It's essential. Our ancestors didn't wear shoes because, or they wore conductive shoes so they could stay connected to the earth. They understood this it's so basic science. And if there's no way to, like if you can't walk on the beach with bare feet or walk on grass or whatever, concrete is conductive, bricks are conductive. You can touch that whole tree hugging thing. It's not a joke. Sit with your back against a tree, touch a plant, touch a rock, hold a crystal. These are essential practices in order for us to be balanced in any way, but also to optimize our physical and mental health. And from that point, then I found that with me connecting to nature, then information starts to flow in. Like I remember I was lying under this coconut palm and I just could feel a book coming. Sounds weird, but that was what's happening. And I thought it was going to be on grounding. So I went, learn about grounding and how important it is for us to be grounding every day. And there are devices that can be used at home. There's a company by a guy called Clint Ober. He did the some formative studies on the power of grounding, and I recommend, to really understand it, to watch a documentary called Earthing. It's available on YouTube, and it shows you the miracle of being grounded. So his company has products like sheets and computer mats, and there are shoes, and so there's no excuse for not being grounded. And especially now, with the amount of time that people spend staring at screens, take a break, go outside, put your feet on the lawn, or take a blanket, have a picnic, have a cup of tea, whatever it is. Be connected to nature. And then the other practice that I've done that's really just accelerated my knowing, like this is the book I just finished. And I know that being connected to the sun, look at this, 825 pages of natural medicines and all sorts of practices that we can use to empower ourselves, protect ourselves, strengthen ourselves, heal ourselves. And the main one that I've done now for many years is sun gazing. So when the sun comes up, I'm watching it through, a soft gaze. And then usually until the sun, if it hurts, stop. It's not one of those no pain, no gain things. Even just a small amount of light going, the sun is the highest form of energy and information available to us. So if we're receiving that light, which is information, into the brain or the glands in the brain, then it's optimizing us. And once again, I don't know how it works. I just know that it works. It's, there are light codes and who knows what else. It's far too complex for my human mind to understand, but I know that the practice is transformative on every level. You can do it the same at sunset, as when the sun's going down, it's safe to look at the sun. And that saying that, don't look at the sun, you'll go blind, that's maybe just half of the sentence, because it's don't look at the sun if it's directly overhead, because that can be way too intense. But there are times when it's important to look at the sun, and it's essential to receive sunlight on the skin. And you can, like, if you're looking at the sun with your eyes closed, you're still receiving light into your brain, because we've got porous head, porous eyes. You can get it from your back of your head, back of your back. But get sunlight onto your skin, because it's necessary for a whole range of physiological practices. Hear about production of vitamin D. It's not really a vitamin. It's a precursor for about 200 hormones. So we really need sunlight to kick that off. And there's a whole lot of other things too that we need from nature, negative ions, just fresh air. The sounds of nature can help rebalance our nervous system. And if you can't get outside, you can play them inside. Remember when I lived more in the city, I played sounds of nature, like rainfall, ocean waves, bird songs, jungle sounds, whales calling, whatever it is, because our body, it's still an animal body that responds to the natural world in a way that's been like forgotten and hidden and skipped over. So that it's the connection to nature that we need at this time more than any time, because there's so much going on to disconnect us and disempower us. And nature, and then to go on from there, like drink pure water. The thing is with water is a conscious being, so you can communicate with the water. So even if you tap waters in most places has fluoride in it, which keeps your brain unable to expand in perception and consciousness by design. And there are steps now to take the fluoride out of water. I think there's one state might be like Idaho, is just to remove fluoride from public water. So yay for that. But choose water that's as pure as possible. Spring water is the ultimate water. And if you're using, because you have to, bottled water, whatever, it can be optimized by putting it out in the sun so it receives the sunlight, and that increases its vibration. You can hold it in a glass like next to your heart, and that water will communicate with your heart and move it into a higher vibration. You can pray over it. You can put it through a vortex, like stir it so it's got a vortex in it, or put it in a vortex creating machine. That will raise its vibration. So, what we drink can help us heal, help us you become more empowered, more protected or whatever. And the other thing too is what we eat, of course. So I make sure that I include living foods. I sprout my own sprouts, and I pray over them too, that they're going to optimize my health. I make my own kombucha. I grow my own, not all of it, but I do grow some of my own food, and trust that those plants, I'm communicating with them too, that they're growing whatever it is that I need to optimize my health. So the short answer is just spend as much time as possible in nature, connecting with nature, like find a spot, create a sit spot where you just go and sit there and listen. Just be. Don't have to do anything, just be and feel and receive. And in order to receive the maximum medicine, whatever it is from the universe, the nature, it's important to be relaxed. Because when we're in any other state than relaxation, there's tension there. So to be relaxed as possible, that's why lying on the grass is such a good practice to go and do, because then you're receiving all that you need in just whatever time you have available. The other one I do is I float on the ocean and sun gaze at the same time. Like that's just a brilliant, way to receive the light, the love, the healing forces or whatever, and then to always give thanks and be in gratitude for what's being received, because we are always being sourced and guided and protected. Just important to be aware of that and to be grateful for that. And yeah, that's really what's helped me shift from a life of suffering, because I suffered all the time, just all the time. I would think, why is this happening to me? I know I'm not a bad person, but this is just hell. And I already thought I did my dance with death, but then it happened again and I still felt like a victim. But the way out of that was to really immerse in the natural world, and also to be doing a lot of self reflection,
Yeah.
a lot of self-analysis.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Bella. I grow my own sprouts as well. I pray over water, and I watch what I eat. And in fact, I received a message a while back to um, put together some of the interviews from Spiritual Inspired into a number of books. So the first book, Alternative Methods of Healing, will be out either in late April or May, depends on the publisher. So that will be book 1, and book 2 will be Psychology, Channeling, and Mediumship, and book 3, Shamanism and Sacred Plant Medicine, because I'm also somehow connected with Hawaii through my books and the shamanic courses I took with late Hank Wesselman, and read other authors who have connections to Hawaii.
Fabulous. And thank you for thank you for the platform that you offer. And thank you for that work that you're doing to collate the information and get that out for people. It's really important.
Yes, and how have your daughters adjusted to this amazing environment?
Well, they too fell into the family cult, and they have decided that they don't want me in their lives anymore. So to answer that, I don't know how they are. It's another excruciatingly painful aspect of my life. Well, once again, I have to honor, their choices and their path, and I wish them well, and it'll be up to them whether they want to do their own work and reconnect with me. I feel a lot of shame that I actually raised daughters who they are very disrespectful and very cruel. I'm sure they've got their own reasons for what they're doing, and it's like the same type of, they just bought into the family's brainwashing. My eldest daughter was brainwashed by my mother. She told her years ago she should never have a relationship with me, and she sold out. And my youngest daughter is the daughter of the cult leader, so she didn't stand a chance, really. What I came to understand was that if there is a narcissist and a codependent in a relationship, then the children will either end up with a narcissistic personality disorder, or they'll be codependent. And unfortunately, most people seem to go towards the having a narcissistic personality disorder in my family. And also I think it's through the influence of like social media and all that. There's a drive to feed those narcissistic tendencies. And yeah, it's pretty sad. And it's something else I have to kind of compartmentalize. It can be excruciating, the fact that I'm a childless mother and a grandchildless grandmother. But the fact is, I focus on what I need to do, here and now. How am I going to live my life, regardless of how anyone else chooses to interact with me? And also that when I get to the bottom of it, is I'm free. I'm really free. I'm responsible just for myself. And that might sound, like really selfish, but it's just a fact that I am. I'm
No,
free.
it's not selfish. It's not selfish. Sorry to interrupt. It's not selfish. And sometimes I have this discussion with my guests or family members, and I tell them the most important person on earth, it's me, or it's you for yourself. So you have to take care of that aspect of who you are.
Yeah, I do. And so my focus now is on enjoying life as much as possible every day, while fulfilling whatever instructions I'm getting, like to publish the book, promote it or whatever, but making sure that I am enjoying life, because this is just, I don't know what next or whatever. This is it.
Yes. And you mentioned your book, Putting on the Armor of God, a survival handbook for the Great Awakening and New Earth. Let's expand on that, please.
So that was a book that came to me when I was under the coconut tree, and it came just at the start of all the whole scamdemic thing. And it was really, I was explaining to people what was going on, that this was a psyop, and that people were being lied to, and then like, what's the word, like coerced. People were being lied to and coerced into taking these extremely dangerous medical procedures. And so the book is a warning about what was happening. And then it also included lots of the medicines that we can use to empower ourselves, and then a vision for New Earth, because that's really, that's how we create, right? Through what we envision. So I included the vision for where I see us going as humankind, because of the light, the increase in the frequency of light that's now pouring forth from the great central sun, through our suns and from elsewhere in the galaxy. And while it looks like we might be going to shit here on Earth, there's so much just deception and fuckery going on, all sorts of it. It's just endless, really. You don't know where to look, who to trust, what's going on. But eventually, and it's up to us how this goes, because we're the ones who are creating the future, right? With every thought, word, and action, we're creating the future. So it's up to us how we proceed through this time to the time when we are living as sovereign beings, when we are concerned with the common good, and we're not, there's not the self-serving, destructive, violent, disrespecting nature type of force that's driving us at the moment, which is, it's all by design. We are in the battle between good and evil. It is playing out, whether you're, into Bible stuff or whatever it is. It's just a fact that this is a battle between good and evil, and it's like we're at the crux. This is the choice point for humanity, because if we choose to believe what the mainstream media or the government or some psychopathic billionaire is telling us, then we will go down a transhuman apocalyptic path. Or we can choose to trust a higher power, connect with a higher power, stay connected to nature, be human, be kind, be good, be helpful, all that, and usher in the golden age, the age of Aquarius, the Dwapara Yuga. We're actually just right now at the end of a long cycle of time, according to the Hindu tradition, the ending of the Kali Yuga and moving into the Dwapara Yuga, which is an upswing of consciousness. So, that's where we are going, even like it looks like shit. And that's because there is so much light being poured forth now. The light is exposing all the darkness, all the evil, all the corruption. I mean, just think of the corruption that's being exposed across the board, from the religions to the legal systems to Hollywood to, what's happening in academia. It's brilliant.
Yes.
Truly brilliant.
So you are against transhumanism. So I'm disappointed because I was about to order a chip for you.
I have a potato chip, but I don't want any of that other stuff. This is one of the sections that I wrote about in my book, that the whole transhuman thing is actually, that's the route to devolution of humanity. That's going to be the end of humankind. We will be a species that has no ability, no free will,
yes,
and no escape. It's kind of terrifying. And we don't actually evolve that way. We evolve through our consciousness and through our physicality. So if we're connected to these technologies that interfere with that process, that's just probably the worst thing that one could do, to believe that somehow these technologies are going to advance us as humans, because they won't. They'll actually block that.
Yes, I
And that's all
agree.
by design too.
I
Yeah.
agree. And I also
Yeah.
talked extensively with some of my guests about this aspect of who we are. And also Greg Braden talks about the same subject on his latest book. Bella,
Right.
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I've got his quotes in my book that we are the technology. We have
Yes.
no clue what we're capable of as human beings or spiritual beings, divine beings or whatever. I mean, our bodies have got these technologies within us that most people have no clue about.
Yep.
Like the raising of the chrism, that process that happens every month, where there's these sacred fluids released from the pineal and pituitary gland that travels down through the chakras, back up the spine again, the 33 vertebrae, spends 3 days in the cave of Brahma, then release. That's just one little part of the technology that we have got going every month that most people have no clue about, and it gets destroyed by riotous living, basically. So it's interesting that he just put out his book called Pure Human, and mine's New Human of New Earth. And so there's that understanding that these information packets, I suppose, or information downloads, there are a lot of people who understand this now, right? You do. I'm sure a lot of your audience does. There are a lot of people who know what's going on. And we're the ones that have to take action and make a difference, because most other people don't know, don't care, don't believe it. And in order to make change, we have to embody the change, live the change. So, that's part of our divine responsibility.
Yes, each of us are doing our part to the best of our abilities. And I think something good happened to you out of this experience. You develop your artistic side. You are painting these days. How that goes for you?
Well, actually, I'm not painting. I'm really shit with, drawing and all that. But what I do is a lot of photography. And I'm using Photoshop to merge my images of nature with religious iconography, and it's called Divine in Nature. So that's a fun thing to do when I'm not writing the book or researching the book. Yeah. I think what's happened for me is that basically what I've experienced expanded my consciousness and continues to do so. So it's also expanded some of my other abilities that are latent. I don't think I'm very telepathic or all those sorts of things, psychic, but I definitely can collate a lot of information and then write about it.
Beautiful. And how is your relationship with God these days?
With God.
Yes.
A car horn just started up. It's my everything. I'm so grateful that I get to serve, that I get to give my life to God and be used in any way. So it's my central to my life is my relationship with God.
Beautiful. And if you would have the chance to give humanity another gift other than what you are offering right now, what that gift would be?
It's remembrance. I would want people to remember like who they are, why they're here, that and remember the sacredness of the natural world, and that we have love and support from countless beings of love and light. We're not alone, and we're not doing this alone, even though it might feel like that sometimes. We really have it. Countless beings who are focused now on us as individuals and us as a species and our evolutionary path. So to remember that and to reach out and ask for help and feel the help and give thanks for the help.
Bella, you are an example as how a strong woman should look like. And I really hope and I have the conviction that the right people, either men or women, will watch this lovely discussion and they will learn and they will become stronger and they will find a way to come out of their dominating relationships.
Thank you. That's such a beautiful thing to say. Thank you so much.
Do you have any other final words? Do you want to mention any other programs you are running?
I have my website, which is feelingbetternaturally.love, where I have some other writings and my artwork, and where you can buy my books. And I have a YouTube channel called Feeling Better Naturally, where I have a lot of images from nature. I do a lot of snorkeling, and so appreciating images from nature is also beneficial. And so that's my offering through there, as well as some of the things that I teach. And yeah, that's the best way to access my work or get in touch with me. And I'm just sending all my love and gratitude to you and your audience for caring and wanting to make the world a better place. So important at this time to be focused on where we're going to, which is into sovereignty and abundance and peace and beauty and empowerment, and where everybody is cared for and everybody can live a fabulous life. That's my
Thank you very
vision.
much. Much love from us as well. All the best.
Thank you.
And to my viewers, thank you for watching. Share it, leave a comment, go over to Gnostic TV for older episodes. And until next time, love and gratitude.